Hi, this is just a little short video to demonstrate Infotopic's Waterfall Viz extension. Here I've got a horizontal waterfall chart that I've already created. I'm going to recreate it so you can see how the Viz extension works. I'm just using the Tableau sample superstore datasets, so we're a little bit limited in what we have to work with, but basically what I'm doing here is I'm showing my sales for 2023, my sales for 2024, and then I'm showing for all the product subcategories how much more money we made in 23, or how much more money we made in 24 than we did in 23. So that the sum of those differences gets us to our 2024 total, which is 21.4% higher than 2023. And then over here on the right, it gives us a percentage growth uh, to the prior year for each product subcategory. Okay, so how do you build this thing? Well, start with a blank sheet. Let's limit the years to just 23 and 24. Figure out how to use Tableau on a Mac. 23, 24. Okay. And now I want to load the Viz extension. So I go to my marks card, I do the drop down. I already have it downloaded, so it shows up as an existing Viz extension. But if I did not have it, I could go to Add Viz Extension, search for Waterfall, go to their page, open it, and it would download it. But since I've already done that, and what that downloads is a what they call a T-Rex file. It's just a file with the extension TREX, which I have in my Tableau repository. So since I already have it, I will just select it. And now look at the marks card here. You get some property boxes here that you don't normally have. You have a category, axis, and measure, in addition to detail and tooltip that you are used to seeing. And over here on your sheet, there's some instructions on how to use it, a link to their documentation and FAQs, which is pretty nifty. So the first thing I want to do is select my calendar years for the category. So it's my order date, and drop that on there. And year of order date is what I want for my category. And then for the things that are going to be, so those are the bars at the end of the waterfall. For the bars in the middle of, between the bars, that's your axis. So I'm going to use product subcategory for that. And then I need a measure. And I'm just going to use sales for that. There. Okay, and voila, we have a waterfall chart. But it's not correct. So let's go back to the finished one here. And this one you can see that we started with 613,000. We end up at 745. Here we're starting at 613,000, but we're at like 1,355,000. So something is clearly not right. So now the next step is to go into this format extension option. And it took me some playing around with this. I'm sure if I had read the documentation better, I would have understood what all these options do. But um, playing around with it, I kind of figured it out. So this horizontal or vertical controls the orientation of the waterfall chart. This is horizontal, and this is vertical. I find vertical to be easier to read. So I think I'll leave it, well, I tell you what, I'm going to leave it in horizontal for right now, and I'll show you why. But at the end, I'm going to flip it. Okay, so this next set of options is important. It says, yes, you want to aggregate the first category. Now remember that our category is the year of the order date. So you want to aggregate the first category in a total and hide the underlying values. Now, I had no idea what that meant until I chose the other option. And you can see what it's doing here. So when it's selected yes, it hides all of this stuff because it all totals up to that bar. So yes, that's what I want. I don't want to see all of 2023. I just want the total bar. Should show the value of the bars. Difference. Yeah. So this next one is also very important. So this is actually what's causing this to be incorrect. I believe it's just taking the these sales for like accessories, each of the subcategories, and it's just adding them up and adding the sum of that to the 613 from 23, and that gives you the 1.359 million. But that's not what we want. What we want is the second option here that says the total should be the value, and the bars in between should show the difference compared to the same value in the previous category. All right, so let's parse that a little bit. So we want to see the total, yes, but it's going to be the difference compared to the same value in the previous category. So what is our category? Our category is the year of the order. So what that's saying is for each of these product subcategories, go back to the prior year and figure out what the difference is. And that's what we want. And when we select that, there we go. Starting to look a little more reasonable. And there's my 745 number, which is correct. Okay, so two important options there. Yes, aggregate the first category, and no, or no to the second option so that we get the difference of each of these to the prior period. This option, I don't see that it changes anything. I didn't quite understand what it did. This one is somewhat important, and this is why I left it in this orientation. You'll notice that the bars in the middle are kind of squished down because these bars are so much taller. So what this, and they're the height they are because you starting the y-axis at 0. What this option allows you to do is not start the y-axis at 0, but as a percentage of, I believe, the lower value here. So if I make this 50%, then this starts around 300,000 because that's 50% of the lower. And you can see it makes the bars a little easier to see. If we continue to increase it, it makes them taller. Now, technically, from a data visualization best practices, you're never supposed to truncate the axis when you have a bar. But uh, in this case, it might be okay, since what you're really wanting to focus on is the stuff in between the bars. Okay, so let's keep going. You can hide labels if you don't want to see labels on the bars in the middle. I would think you'd want to see them. You can hide the x-axis. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can. Same thing with the y-axis. You can hide it. That makes sense, since um, you're labeling all the marks individually. Although, since you're not starting at 0 here, you might want to show it. In any case, we'll go back. And the reason I didn't flip this earlier is because if I flip it sideways, uh, these labels don't change. So this just becomes the x-axis. I think that's maybe a little confusing. Okay, let's see, what else do we have here? Yeah, you could, like these percentages, you can show or hide them. You can add additional spacing below the x-axis. I'm not sure what that's for, but you can do the same thing on the y. You can add some space on the left or underneath. There's a nifty reference line that will show you, like, the difference between here and here is 21.4%. You can turn that on or off. Declines on and off. 0 line, which we can't see because of that other option that we set. You can play with the colors, so if you don't want to do traffic stop, I'm sorry, if you don't want to do stoplight coloring, you can choose colors. That light, dark. Labels, you've got some control over smaller. It's pretty small. Yeah. Yeah. So you have some control over what goes on here. Tips. You control what's being done. Tooltip. So this is one of the things that's really different about using Viz extensions, is that stuff that you would normally do in the Tableau interface, right? On the tooltip thing, they have an interface for it in this extension formatting. So that's different. And then here on the measures, so like all these are in, if I wanted to show these in thousands, I could say sum of sales. I want to show with 1 decimal place suffixed with a, in a thousand. 1.9K. I think that's about it for options. So I think once you learn to use, you can pull it up here too. So it's once you learn to format the extension, it's fairly easy to build a nice looking waterfall chart. Um, One advantage of this as well is if you put this on a dashboard, it can interact with other views on your dashboard just like any other Tableau view. So, like if I clicked on an accessory here, I could filter other views for accessories or binders or whatever. Um, okay, well I think that's all I have for this. So I'm going to end this recording now.